Calling in Angelic Mister Rogers. Mr. Rogers calling in. What is your message for the people today? We're going to show the earth dance that we've created together. Okay. So, his message for you today, are you ready? Healing your inner child may sound like a slogan, but it's the roots of every generational child encoded in your DNA. Each one who has walked Mother Earth. This dance is not entertainment, it's actually a classroom. So, if you'd like to be a student, grab your notebook and pen. We're going to ask you some questions. You may have answered them before, but maybe you need to go to the roots a little bit deeper this time. So, question number 1 is, are you ready? Were you allowed to play freely as a child, or did you have to shrink to survive? Question number 2. Did your caretakers nurture your soul? Did they even know you had a soul? Or mold you to fit their pain? Or mold you to fit their pain? Question number 3. Have you ever danced without music just to feel your own rhythms inside of you and the rhythms of those inner children inside of you? Question number 4. Can you recognize the ancestral wounds that have shaped your behavioral patterns, your actions with work, with money, with relationships, with self-love? Question number 5. Are you willing to sacrifice comfort for truth? And question number 6. What does freedom feel like in your body, mind, and soul when no one is watching? And I mean, no one is watching. A lot of people are seeing me on these podcast interviews, and there's some really magical ones coming up that I've done already. I'm excited about the ones that are in my calendar for the future as well, because this is giving me a platform I've, to figure out how to voice certain things in short pockets of time effectively, even though I feel the conversation overall in regards to healing generational trauma is not a quick fix talk. So, with that said, people say, "Oh, you look young." And I feel, and it's not about I go, do a facial or I'm anti-aging because I've released generational traumas. And it was really difficult work. I'm anti-aging because I'm setting boundaries energetically. My boundaries have always been violated in my auric field, and that's my karmic number, my auric field. So I am learning to protect my boundaries because I've realized recently I can really feel other people's traumas, even through a text, even through an email message. I can actually download your traumas and your generational patterns. It's that psychic high ability that has changed my lifestyle. And I will say, and this is going to come out in one of my talks, that Anastasia, some of you have seen the water dance video and my opening song and her picture. I know her life records. Her story needs to be shared from somebody that's part of her bloodline. And the true story And she lived at one point in another time period for over 600 years on planet Earth. So, for all of our successful financial people in America, what are we doing? Why are we only living to be 100, 110 years old if we're lucky? If we're lucky, we don't get Alzheimer's. If we're lucky, we don't get the cancers, but most do statistically. I am a very long-term thinker. And that's why I had the patience to do the inner work instead of being on platforms all day long. It wasn't about, oh, I've got something to say, I've got something to prove. It was about, I got to get real about this. This is serious stuff because I don't actually believe in death. So, and you'll learn through the sequence of my book series, if death doesn't exist, what are you contributing to the next generation? What are you contributing to your future self? If you don't know everything about you in your soul database, let alone help nurture the next generation properly. Or are we just going to block them, as Mr. Rogers would say? So this is the healing of amnesia, suppression, and silencing. We have silenced a lot of voices on mainstream Hollywood, social media platforms, even book publishing deals. Because if you don't have the money or the connections, or you don't do the sex deals, you don't get those stages. If you don't conform to what they want you to say, you don't get those stages. That's why Jimmy Slide, who's in my keynote and in my books, and is one of my angelic advisors, was such a true divine masculine. And guess what? He died financially, probably poor, but he's rich right now because I will live the rest of my life speaking about him and honoring him. And I know I'm going to build a tribe that will too. You might not see your legacy right now, and it's a shame that he couldn't be here on earth. But I bet when he reincarnates, he'll live a longer life, a financially more prosperous life, because his bloodline will have healed, because they will be given practical toolkits. I'm a long-term thinker and worker and builder. And now I've come to a position where I have to qualify the energy even through emails. And maybe people take it offensive, but I'm a high-end psychic medium who has very specific projects that need to happen. So this is the dance, a sacred dance of memory. Through brain and water protocols designed to they unlock you. You step into that work through a guide, through some tools. You begin the wisdom of, for me, I reversed my genetic red blood cell disorder, my voice. I reversed severe levels of brain damage, not with me, not just with me, but with my ancestors, like off the charts. Like, you don't want to walk, it hurts so bad. And it would have been easy to stay a sugar addict. It would have been easy to be a workaholic, but I don't want to keep doing this to my bloodline. I've come here to set the record straight. So, you need to know your soul database, and that's interesting dance when I talk to people who have gone to psychics or past life regression, and I'm sure there's incredible people that do that, but they don't actually learn enough knowledge to actually make it a practical healing toolkit for their business, relationships, life that sustains into the next and the next and the next. So therefore, I have to question the science or the medium tool at this point in time. We have to. In the United States, we're sicker, our children are sicker, our systems are not working. We have to question that. And I think we need to bring new voices onto the platform, maybe with ethical business contracts. This is how we decode the ancestral archives hidden. They're hidden in our bones and our breath, our soul database, our cellular light. This is how we confront spiritual theft because there is spiritual war taking place. The theft of the divine feminine voice and truth. Stolen land, poisoned water, and silenced wombs. So at a glance, you may see a vibrant 53-year-old woman playing with her angels. But behind her joy is a lifetime of sacred labor, healing slavery, healing tortured rapes, healing the trauma of nearly being choked to death as a child. This dance, it's not entertainment. It's a remembrance of what was taken from me and the women in my maternal bloodline. So I ask yourself, was your inner child allowed to play, to be silly, to speak to angels, or did you shrink to survive, conforming to caretakers, silencing your soul to fit in? Were your past lives dismissed, your intuition mocked, and your light dimmed? This is the moment. If you found this video, if you found me, this is the moment. You may be a student, you may be a teacher trainer, you may be a person who hires me, but this is the moment. You may be funding me, but this is the moment. Because the Divine Mother is watching. She's watching. And the debts of his story must be paid. Whether by those who inflicted, specifically my maternal bloodline, or the next generation. Because this healing must happen to get to what we hear, which Angelic Mister Slide says is not a slogan. New earth. Because the Mother Earth we have right now is screaming to be heard. Enjoy my first dance in my highest timeline, and many blessings. Blessings. I didn't plan on coming on to do a second video before the Earth dance. I woke up at 5 a.m. to get to the park and the location before people were there playing. And for the particular first scene, because I had been going to the park for weeks, this particular land, and getting downloads. And, you know, a lot of you may know me as a healer. 11 years ago, I used to really call in the Ascendant Masters, not knowing that a lot of them were my parents in past lives. And now I work directly with the creation of Mother Earth. Because we need to make some really, really drastic changes and have a lot of different leadership in the forefront, not just women, but women who have actually healed their generational traumas so that they can come into their balance of the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And so maybe this second video is the divine masculine coming in. So I get to this location, and right in the first scene, which you'll see, this was already on the set. I had not planned on doing anything in regards to water or the plastic issue. Powerful message. I actually could do probably a 2-hour download right now on this, so I'm going to keep this item. You know, I receive information now from the water. The water speaks to me, and that might sound really crazy to you, very foreign. But I actually think that this is insanity at this point. And I've been lecturing on this for 14 years, specifically in my city and state. It's growing like a virus. I call out all of the influencers and the financial leaders of America specifically. What are we doing? How can you speak on stages about health, mental health, while we're drinking this off stage, while your audience is drinking this off stage? See, I'm not somebody that preaches something on stage and then does something off stage. It's been very difficult to travel, specifically in the United States, because the airports have toxic poisons left and right, not just with this, but with things like this. Food. So you're going to see a lot more in my Facebook and LinkedIn in these posts about the corruption of the state of PA, the land, the lies. We have to get to the truth of what happened in the last couple 100 years on this land, not just to blame somebody who stole it. That's not actually where I'm coming from. And when you read book 2, you're really going to understand that until you as a leader do your generational trauma healing work, and that's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to have to shake trauma out, cry, and feel stuff you don't want to feel if you actually want to be empowered eternally. But the truth is that I know the complications of the lies and the patterns we're repeating. There are certain bloodlines that are repeating psychological, emotional, spiritual abuse. They may not have us in chains physically, but they are working on chains in a different way. So this is deep. And I'm not offering all of the information up to anyone. I've learned wisely from all of the slave owners who sat across from me in my private practice when I didn't know they were the predators of my past lives and the women in my maternal bloodline's past lives. I've seen how they repeat their entitlement, their arrogance, and their cover-ups. So there is a reckoning, but I don't have to actually do anything because I've done my work. I've healed and I know the truth. And I'm here to empower, but I'm also here to qualify who comes into the chambers of my teachings. I've passed up specific people in the last 2 years who probably could have gotten me a lot of work, and I need work because I lost my whole savings healing this generational bloodline brain damage. Healing is not a linear, it's a circular, and I didn't know Anastasia was going to come out. I didn't know I'd have to take another 2 months off. If you're a business owner, you know the damage that's done. Well, imagine that happening over and over again. And imagining having karmics around you who are sucking you dry. People who are around you who just want to take your energy and your light and your resources. I've learned some really hard lessons in the last couple years. I learned that people really think they know something, but they're going to be in for a rude awakening. And this is the example. You'll see my angelic team in the credits. I hope you enjoy those credits. I have one angelic member. I call him Angelic Gangster. He's in book 2. And he's not actually a part of my bloodline, but he came in 6, 7 years ago and started really being my cheerleader to keep me in the game because he saw his bloodline in trouble, and he still does. And he's not here to help because he became an addict, a womanizer, and died young. You might know somebody like that. And the truth is I've learned and listened to several men from my city who were millionaires, billionaires, died in their 50s and 60s, who wish they would have taken my brain protocol program seriously, my childhood trauma program seriously, and definitely the water protocols, which isn't just about clean water. It's also about how to utilize clean water with electricity, with then medical grade water, with pretty much about 5 or 6 different types of water protocols. There's an actual complex science to that. Just like the brain protocols, we're not tapping, we're not doing vocal therapy, we're not doing energy therapy, we're not doing voice therapy. We're actually doing it all. It's multidimensional in the brain protocols, which makes them a little bit harder for the average person to do. I know when I first started doing them, I got dizzy because I had so much brain damage, and that's why I needed a medical grade water. So there's a lot to this, but this made me laugh. I was like, oh, we're not going to get away from this because you might think water is all I deal with. It's a huge foundation. I love water, and I'm disgusted by having there's nowhere to go, restaurants, like I said, flying hotels, can't shop. I mean, we're exposed to toxics left and right. And I'm very specific about certifications. And I want to go into those lectures with leaders, or maybe privately, because we're in a war in America. We're in a very serious, serious spiritual war. We actually do need to get to the truth in order to heal that generational root trauma. That's what we do with ourselves. That's why I do have a young body again, and my bone structure's changed. But there's consequences. I've had to pay a huge debt. And whether people like it or not, if your bloodline's a part of slavery, your generational bloodline will pay that debt some way, somehow. It's in them. That's unfortunate. So be responsible when you have children. Be responsible with the choices you make. You may think I have lots of money and influence and my kids are set for life. May not be the case. We're in a very challenging transition right now. And Mother, the Divine Mother, is definitely keeping score. And so she's the one I always tune into. And when somebody hires me, you're not hiring me anymore. You're hiring me with the creation of the mother. And then if you want a creative team, well, then you've got my creative team, which is in the credits. So Angelic Gangster is an interesting character, and maybe message to you. Um, are we going to keep turning a blind eye? Are we going to wait for somebody else to fix it? Are we going to not ask the people who have really invested their heart and soul, not for financial profit, but understanding that how are we going to leave this place and how are we going to come back to it? So it's really deep. This was a deep message today from my whole team, really. And it makes me feel like they really do hear and see me. And I'm really honored by that. As you will read in book 2, it's been a really, really hard journey. And I have faced death many times. And I wish I could say that somebody came in to help me financially, but nobody did. I wish I could say that somebody came in to hold me while I was crying every day for hours and hours, but nobody did. I wish I could say I have a best friend now to call and talk to, but I don't. I wish I could say I have a business partner that I can trust, but I don't. I wish I could say that I wasn't, judged by my family, but I was. I wish I could say I wasn't judged by my community, but I was. That's what healing's about. So anybody that comes in is going to have to come in knowing that they're going to have to do their own work on their own time and never bring their trauma into my inner circle because it's peaceful now. And I will continue to be a voice for the water, the land, and the woman, the energy that created this planet, because it's a feminine planet. And it's not about you own this and you own that. It's a lot deeper. And I'm going to wait for another day to really go into that. So I thank you. I hope you enjoy. I did some videos for this morning for a couple hours and I cut it. I don't have a team. I don't have the budget at all to do that. Um, it's been a one woman show for a very long time. And people say, "Oh, you have to ask for help." Well, wait till you read book 2. Wait till you read book 2. It might change some of the narratives we've been brainwashed online. We might want to start some new conversations about helpers, about new mental health trauma centers, about how we fund, about who are the people speaking about the mental health crisis. Are they actually the ones that should be? How are we qualifying that? Enjoy the earth dance. Is there anything else I want to say before I finish this second video? Many blessings.